During the final excavations on Oak Island, a frightening discovery was made. Once again, a remarkable discovery has been made, and this time it provides conclusive evidence that the Oak Island conceals wealth. During their concluding excavation of the C1 cluster on Oak Island, the Oak Island made an unsettling discovery. The team has been keeping a close watch on the progress in the hopes that any significant developments will bring them closer to the treasure chamber or offset vault they have been searching for so long. B4 sea shaft is nearly at its utmost depth of approximately 90 feet. This location is located just 5 feet to the north of Borehole C. They discovered what may be the remains of 15th century wooden structures. Significant traces of silver and gold were also discovered, leading to speculation about the original location of the money pit and the possibility of a conduit leading to a treasure chamber. Well, this frightening discovery at Oak Island during the final excavation appears to be more exciting than previously believed. How did humans in the 15th century use wood to construct such complex tunnel networks? I do not understand the purpose of this. The discovery of a tunnel at a depth of 90 feet is viewed as a significant indicator that they are closing in on the original location of the money pit. Each excavation increases the likelihood that precious objects will be discovered in the subsequent grab or scoop. Since the gold was discovered in the water, they believe it may have been transported to the money pit. The group unearths a few random timber planks, but the most significant discovery is a massive iron fastener. The craftsmanship's primordial nature suggests that it is at least a century old. The fact that it occurred prior to the discovery of the money grave leads them to the conclusion that there may be artifacts from that time period somewhere. One of the items is a hand-forged spike, which immediately becomes the subject of fascination. Given the significance of each prospective lead, the organization intends to investigate the influx. It appears crude, but it contains hand-forged raw iron and shows signs of age, making it a significant artifact that may cast light on Oak Island's history. At a depth of about 130 feet in the B4C shaft, the crew encounters difficulty after hitting granite. Due to time constraints, further excavation in the money pit area cannot occur this year, but information gathered from the 5 massive steel tunnels dug in the preceding months lends credence to the theory that the treasure sought after for more than 2 centuries is still buried somewhere beneath Oak Island. The team is aware of the difficulty posed by the funding gap, as well as the significance of technological innovation and the effective application of existing technologies in order to continue their investigation. We may soon learn more about the spike's history and significance thanks to Carmen's knowledge and careful examination of it. The iron spike discovered in B4 treasure, as they continue to make new openings and discoveries that provide them with valuable new information. The crew remains optimistic regarding their overall progress. The discovery of the artisanal spike adds to their growing body of knowledge in this discipline, which was used to calculate the precise elevations of the tunnel. The group's intention to conduct additional research, including C14 testing, demonstrates its significance. Marty Lagina, Craig Tester, Gary Drayton, and blacksmithing expert Carmen Legg returned to the Institute to discuss the iron spike they discovered at a depth of over 100 feet in the B4C shaft. The enigma of Oak Island has evolved into a captivating tale, a perplexing puzzle whose mystique has only grown as time has passed. Their words, which emphasize their conviction that gold can be located on Oak, exude confidence. During the height of piracy in the late 17th and early 18th centuries, it was widely believed that Oak Island served as a secure haven for pirates operating along the entire east coast of North America and in the Caribbean. This notion has existed since the beginning of island exploration. They pondered whether this was the location where a pirate commander had hidden his loot. As they proceeded deeper into the tunnel, however, water began to fill it. This was owing to the peculiar location of the island they were working on, which was above a glacial mound. Despite the fact that no treasure was ever discovered on Oak Island, the legend surrounding the purported location of the loot has been so captivating for the past 225 years that visitors have been making the voyage there. Over time, others began searching for wealth all over the island, not just in the money pit dug by McGinnis and his companions. However, what is the treasure casket intended to contain? As a young man, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who would later become the 32nd President of the United States, became intrigued by the topic after his father, who had business interests in Nova Scotia, provided details about the rumored wealth. This was the result of FDR's father's involvement in the province. The onset of the Second World War in Europe prevented him from traveling to Oak Island in 1939, despite his efforts to keep apprised of the most recent information about the island throughout the remainder of his life. In a similar vein, two prominent actors from the middle of the 20th century, Errol Flynn and John Wayne, funded expeditions to search for the Oak Island treasure. Despite their lack of success, they continue to unearth evidence that fascinates and confounds people in equal measure. Be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications for more timely updates on fascinating new discoveries. Numerous individuals have a variety of plausible and implausible hypotheses regarding the contents of the Oak Island treasure. The most prevalent and plausible explanation is that it is the plundered fortune of a notorious pirate who operated between 1660 and 1730, which is generally accepted to have been the golden age of piracy. Famous pirates and buccaneers frequented the rivers along the east coast of North America, from Canada to the Caribbean during this time period. Edward Teach, also known as the infamous pirate Blackbeard, was one of these individuals. Due to the high level of piracy that existed during this time, the governments of Spain, England, France, and other countries with a financial stake in the security of their commerce in this region were unable to prevent pirate attacks on colonial ships returning to Europe. Beginning with the Treaty of Utrecht, which ended the War of the Spanish Succession in 1713 and was signed by the main European powers, coordinated attacks on pirate ships put an end to the golden age of piracy in the Western Atlantic. The Treaty of Utrecht terminated the War of the Spanish Succession officially. The history of the money pit on Oak Island is shrouded in mystique. According to geology, the money pit was not an underground vault constructed by humans to hold wealth. The bedrock of the island is readily eroded due to its proximity to the ocean and groundwater. Sinkholes can result from the collapse of a network of faults and underground caverns beneath the surface. Despite this, the island's allure has attracted treasure hunters. The stories have provoked and fueled speculation regarding the crater's origins. In space, researchers have discovered a new force. Click the following video to learn what it is. Rick and Marty discover the treasure after months of drilling and scouring. On this island, the crew has been searching for the so-called treasure, and there appears to be a breakthrough. Marty, Lagena, and Rick have arrived at the money pit to assess the progress of the garden shaft probe drilling operation. After approximately 3 inches of drilling, they attained the desired depth. When they reached a depth of approximately 93 feet, they believed they had arrived at the precise location, absolutely perfect in every way. After reaching what is believed to be the approximate depth of the tunnel that leads directly west into the potential treasure zone, the most pressing questions now are whether or not they will be able to find the structure and whether or not they will be able to investigate what it may contain. They believed it was the last day on Earth. In addition, there was absolutely no uncertainty about it. They had to pack up their possessions because they would only be actively searching for approximately half a day. They decided to disassemble the parts and investigate further, today at the very least before sunset. They removed the rods and began cleaning out the file, while simultaneously placing everything in a container and evaluating the situation to determine what was visible. Oak Island most assuredly does not readily divulge her secrets. They were anxious to collect any and all information they could find and, if possible, determine what the piece of wood was that was buried at the bottom of the garden shaft. After drawing a blank, a team member was confident that he had struck wood on the northern side of the board, despite drawing a blank previously. He was able to access the tunnel despite not being directly struck by the bullet. Nevertheless, he was not directly struck by the gunfire. Then, they proposed that they could use it to project the tunnel's line if they simply approached it from the side. This occurred after they realized it was feasible. They had not yet conducted a bottom inspection to determine the precise location of the tunnel at this point. After donning their protective gear, they descended the shaft. Even if they had contemplated it, They never in their wildest imaginings could have predicted that this moment would occur. After so much time, it was almost as if they were reliving a childhood fantasy. Now, in an effort to excavate these treasures, they are venturing into the money pit's depths, putting themselves in the same predicament as those who have come before them for literally hundreds of years. Despite the fact that time is running out, this problem will not be resolved in the immediate future. It is likely that whatever was intended to be discovered in this shaft was set there deliberately to facilitate its discovery. At this time, they believed that utilizing a metal detector would be advantageous in some manner. They only had a small amount of time left, so they decided to ask an experienced team member to use metal detecting equipment and investigate the cavity to see what they could find. Finally, it appears that they may be getting closer to finding the actual treasure. The landscape gave the appearance of being from the Middle Ages. During the reign of the Templars, it was almost as if they were imprisoned in a confinement within a fortress. They were still attempting to determine what was in the hole, but they had a suspicion that it contained a large number of modern nails and wire. They were extremely fortunate to have the CTX 3030, which not only allowed them to discover this but also featured all the bells and sirens associated with distinguishing features. They made immediate contact with something, but it was not a target composed of non-ferrous materials. They speculated it could be gold, silver, or even copper, but could not be certain. Is it conceivable that they discovered traces of the fabled treasure that was supposedly buried on Oak Island's murky soil? The very bottom of the garden shaft, only a few feet below the surface of the ground. It's also conceivable that the signals are being sent through what is believed to be a tube that runs west towards the infant blob and is approximately 10 feet below the surface. It is a bittersweet moment because Dumas does not have the legal permits to extend the shaft deeper at this time of year, and they cannot risk the future of the project or the safety of their team by attempting to breach the bottom of the shaft to explore what could be dangerously unstable ground below the level of elation when they describe a non-ferrous hit. However, the discovery of a non-ferrous strike indicates the presence of a non-ferrous metal, which is cause for celebration. Dumas does not have the legal permissions to extend the shaft further at this time of the year, so the event is both thrilling and disappointing. At this time of year, the shaft can no longer be extended. It is extremely disheartening to realize that this objective cannot be achieved. Both the glacial tumulus system and the series of water-filled anhydrite holes that lie beneath Oak Island may be responsible for the periodic inundation of the pit. Oak Island is situated on top of a glacially formed tumulus system. Oak Island consists of a collection of glacial tumuli. This type of limestone is extremely susceptible. Researchers discovered something incredible in the Oak Island money pit. Oak Island is a sequestered location off the south coast of Nova Scotia, and for generations, people have been fascinated by the island. Finally, researchers discovered something unbelievable in the Oak Island money pit. A large number of academics, scientists, and explorers are intrigued by the possibility of uncovering the mysteries buried beneath the island's surface. It may seem like an exciting adventure on a real-life treasure island, but bear in mind that many individuals have risked their entire fortunes in an attempt to make a fortune on this island. Some unfortunate individuals have even lost their lives in the process, only to have nothing to show for it in the end. The entrance of the Lagena brothers, who have joined the long list of treasure hunters attempting to solve the island's mysteries, has brought about a recent change in the status quo. The Lagena brothers are confident that they possess the skills necessary to locate the fabled treasure said to be buried on Oak Island, and ultimately, these researchers discovered something in the Oak Island money pit that you won't believe. Join us as we observe them as they investigate this 200-year-old enigma, and together we will determine if there is, in fact, hidden wealth on the island. Throughout the course of their expedition, they stumble upon some astounding discoveries that will astound you. The Lagena brothers have devoted a substantial portion of their careers to locating buried wealth. It is understandable why anyone would be captivated by the prospect of unearthing centuries-old treasure buried by someone in the past. Unfortunately, similar to a large number of other visitors to the island, the brothers initially encountered difficulties and failed in their endeavors. Rick and Marty were fortunate in that their treasure hunting efforts did not go unnoticed. The A&E network became aware of the brothers' work and recognizing the potential for a compelling series about treasure hunters investigating Oak Island, decided to collaborate with them on a series titled The Curse of Oak Island. It's quite eerie, wouldn't you say? Thanks to their cooperation with the television network, the brothers were able to recover the funds that they had previously spent on their travels to the island. Their research activities attained an entirely new level after receiving financial support from the network and other investors. It is essential to note, however, that despite the influx of wealth, the Lagena brothers and their new investors did not make any noteworthy discoveries during the first 2 seasons of their program. This is something that must be recognized. Despite this, they demonstrated an admirable amount of patience, which is commendable because, as the saying goes, patience is a virtue. After 3 seasons of searching, the explorers on Oak Island finally made significant discoveries that aroused their curiosity. The discovery of a ceremonial Roman sword suggested that Roman soldiers may have visited Oak Island before Christopher Columbus. This major accomplishment opened a floodgate of opportunities for the crew, and as they diligently combed the island for riches, they discovered a wide variety of artifacts and antiquities. A handcrafted replica of a map of France was one of their discoveries, which aroused their interest in the artifact. In order to conduct the analysis, they enlisted the assistance of historian and maritime expert Zena Halpern. After determining that the map was created in 1647, Halpern theorized that the resources it indicated may have originated in Africa. During the course of their investigation, the Lagena brothers and the rest of their crew discovered fragments of a book, which further investigation revealed to be a bookbinder. After making this discovery, the brothers began to contemplate the possibility that they had not yet discovered additional buried manuscripts on the island. A fragment of parchment made from animal skin was yet another fascinating artifact discovered. William Chappell and Frederick Blair, explorers of Oak Island, have been hypothesized to be involved. In the 15th century, when the document was created, only the wealthy could afford to dispatch mail. In addition, the explorers discovered a number of gold coins near a pit that became known as the Money Pit. This location sparked the island's obsession with treasure that has persisted for the past 2 centuries. Unfortunately, a recurring issue with flooding halted Chappell and Blair's treasure hunting expedition when the Money Pit became submerged in water, preventing them from making any further progress. After Chappell and Blair led the way, many others attempted to find treasure on Oak Island, but unfortunately none were successful. Chappell and Blair were only the beginning of a long line of people who followed in their footsteps. The issue of where the loot was hidden evaded even President Roosevelt, despite his best efforts. Despite numerous abortive attempts, the search for treasure on the island continued indefinitely. This was due to the efforts of individuals like Irwin Hamilton, who unearthed artifacts that were not typical of the area. It was evident that Rick and Marty had a challenging mission ahead of them. They were fortunate to have a competent and capable team supporting them. Craig Tester, who had been Marty's college flatmate, joined their ranks, as did Dan Blankenship and his son David, all of whom were experts in their respective disciplines. Dan Blankenship, for instance, was a renowned hunter who left his contracting business to investigate the enigmatic island. Since the Lagena siblings had been treasure hunting since they were young children, it was not surprising that they were both exceptionally skilled at the activity. As soon as Ricky, then 10 years old, stumbled upon a boulder and became intrigued by the concept of unearthing buried treasure, their passion for treasure seeking was ignited. Even though their first attempt to search the boulder for treasure failed, it set them on a path that would lead them to spend the remainder of their lives engaging in similar adventures. As time passed, they gained a deeper understanding of the tales and legends surrounding Oak Island, which strengthened their resolve to investigate the island's mysteries further. The brothers Lagena and Dan Blankenship each purchased 1/2 of the stock in Oak Island tours in order to realize their dream of discovering the buried treasure and seizing it for themselves. This gang appears to be destined to follow in the footsteps of their former commander, Daniel McGinnis. McGinnis discovered a depression in the ground on Oak Island in 1796, prompting him to initiate his own search for wealth on the island. They and their associates spent approximately 10 years excavating the pit, but none of their efforts bore fruit. In the end, the Onslow Company was the one to assume responsibility for excavating the money grave, but they too were disappointed.